Thanks for watching Morning Live and welcome back. Now, just honing in on the question of the day yesterday and what it means when parents actually are not paying school fees, and focusing on early childhood development centers this morning and the impact that it has had on them. Now, as early childhood development centers such as crèches and daycare facilities remain closed in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19, some parents, children and owners of these centers are experiencing distress during this lockdown. Many children are not being stimulated due to a lack of access to data and e-learning materials where those are provided. And parents also refuse to pay fees, while operators are facing financial difficulty and struggle to pay the salaries and other miscellaneous accounts that come with running these centers. So to tell us more now, we are joined by Puleng Motsoeneng, who is the director of Ntataise Network. And Puleng, thanks so much for your time this morning.
Thank you so much, Asina, for having me.
Puleng, your network has about 21 members across the country. Just explain to us, how many people are we talking about? How many people are affected by this discussion that we are having right now?
Yes, the 21 Ntataise Network members are operating with plus minus 3,000 preschool centers, and that will include other playgroup services. But directly, the preschool teachers whom we are targeting is 4,500.
That's a huge number of people, Puleng, that are affected by this. And the discussions we are having is that many parents and guardians have questioned the need for them to pay fees during this lockdown period because they say children are not actually attending. So give us your view on that.
Rightfully so, unfortunately, that the service has also to shut down. Definitely for safety reasons, we all know. Yes, parents, some would not be able to pay for many reasons that now children are at home, while in a normal day, children will be spending much time in the preschool and get some meals almost for the whole day until the afternoon. So this time, I think parents also find themselves under pressure that the money that they were supposed to pay with for school fees is the money that they actually using it for extra food in the home now that children are at home.
But at this point, what sort of assistance are your members getting from the Department of Social Development, because you fall under them? Have you managed to engage them?
Yes, our preschool members are actually facing a huge difficulty for centers that are getting subsidy from Department of Social Development. Is going to be difficult as going forward now. Department of Social Development has committed itself to continue with the 2019-2020 contract, but that will mean that they will be getting some form of part of their stipend. But still, this is not going to solve the problem in totality, because much of they getting subsidy from social development, they also expect to top up their salaries with their school fees, which they're not going to have now.
And apart from the subsidies, what about some of the other avenues that have been mentioned by government, like UIF? Do some of your members actually qualify for that? And if so, have they tried to claim, and what has the process been like?
Shakina, this thing, I think, has got everyone off guard. It wasn't something that anybody would have thought. For the centers which we're working with, for some of them, they do have their members registered with UIF, and I guess for that, they will be able to go and claim for that benefit. But most of the other very centers that are working under very high level of poverty, you find that the center cannot even afford to register their members as the income is not consistent. So in that case, it means those members, they are not going to benefit in that regard.
So what happens to those people? Because I'm sure they are looking now to the center owners to try and help because they may be going hungry at this stage, Puleng.
Yes, you can imagine the situation is actually so difficult and challenging as it is, and so much burdening, because you could imagine if at the one time that your salary is just stopped, there's nothing that you're going to get, and you don't even know when is it going to be resolved. So it has already created a huge burden to some of the practitioners.
So what means do your members have at this stage, Puleng, to communicate with parents, not just in terms of the fees, but also perhaps to try and benefit the children and trying to keep them stimulated at this point?
Organizations like the Ntataise Network, we've tried, also been challenged in many ways, because now our services has come to stop. And we've tried to embark into many platforms of digital that we are trying to reach out to families and parents at home. We're having this lovely video clips of activities that would help children to continue to stimulate at home, and things that parents can do with children at home. But the problem still there is that we're facing is not all of our targets would be able to access these wonderful activities due to the problem of data, and also the fact that most of the target, our target, are people who are working under very, very poor circumstances.
And Puleng, we do still see, however, in some communities, children playing on the streets, not staying at home as the country is requested to do. How are children mostly affected, especially if you've heard anything back from some of your members at this time?
Yes, this is saddening all of us. We are very sad that it seems as if we communities are not doing enough to can involve our children also to understand the situation that we all finding ourselves, that we finding children still working on the street. So the past weeks, we've been actually trying through radios to talk to parents, to say to parents, this is the time that parents could actually play a very important role of talking to their children, making children to understand what this situation of coronavirus means to us, our lives, then how important it is also to obey the law that the president has actually said, that we should keep ourselves safe in the homes and not just be outside there, because that is also putting our lives and their lives at risk. So I actually plead at this moment that we parents, let's take a role in this platform, that we spend time with our children, we talk to our children, we explain the danger of not obeying the rule of staying in the house, and actually practicing the simple hygiene method of washing our hands thoroughly with water and soap in 20 seconds, and actually also trying to cough, covering our mouth, and actually also practicing the distancing in our homes, that we actually, by doing so, helping or protecting each other for being affected.
And just finally, Puleng, I think we sometimes take a lot for granted. You mentioned that some parents don't actually have access to data. So those who don't, how can they involve their children? How can they engage their children to make sure that they are stimulated?
Yes, for the videos that we've been showing on our platforms with our different programs, the parent program, the practitioner program, we encouraging parents to look at these videos, or for those who cannot do, just to read how the activities are operating. And we also plead as NGOs across the world that all the network mobiles, if they could consider during this COVID-19 period, consider the zero rating so that everyone can benefit, mostly for the e-learning platforms, for the education of children, because I think all children will benefit so much that they won't fall behind. So this is a plea from us NGOs across South Africa to say we really plea with all the mobile networks to consider the zero rating of data for many parents and children to can access these beautiful opportunities for learning.
Thank you so much, Puleng Motsoeneng, who's the director of Ntataise Network, for talking to us about the impact of this lockdown on early childhood development centers. Let's take a break.